Coming up next on KPBS Evening Edition. Next week, a court decides if San Diego Mayor Jerry Sanders crossed a legal line by supporting a pension reform initiative.
I want to have the right to make a parliamentary inquiry.
And find out why a San Diego congressman is under fire for holding a hearing on religious freedom. KPBS Evening Edition starts now.
Hello, thanks for joining us. I'm Joanne Farian.
And I'm Dwayne Brown.
San Diego Republican Congressman Darrell Issa parked himself in the middle of a birth control debate today. He held a special hearing on religious freedom. The hearing comes on the heels of a controversial government proposal requiring religion-affiliated institutions provide employees access to birth control. President Obama last week modified that policy so that insurance companies and not the organization affiliated with the church pay for birth control costs. But that didn't satisfy those testifying at the hearing today. However, the committee itself soon became the target of criticism for its lack of female representation.
Where are the women? When I look at this panel, I don't see one single woman representing the tens of millions of women across the country who want and need insurance coverage for basic preventive health care services. Where are the women?
We've been denied the right to have a witness. I want to have the right to make a parliamentary inquiry.
Issa responded saying that one of the Democratic witnesses, a female college student, did not have the credentials to testify.
County supervisors in Riverside have rejected a proposed quarry near Temecula. The 3-2 vote came after several days of public hearings and 6 years of planning. Supervisors cited deteriorating air quality as a major factor for their decision. The Liberty Quarry would have provided material for construction projects. The number of quarries in San Diego County have fallen from 50 to under 20. A report last year, you may recall, suggests San Diego may face a shortage of construction material in the future if no new quarry sites are approved. The number of homeless families with children continues to grow in San Diego. The county school district says there's nearly 16,000 homeless children here. And today, a one-of-a-kind school for these kids celebrated a major milestone. Like the butterfly it's named after, the Monarch School will soon undergo a major transformation, moving from this cramped downtown space on Cedar Street near the trolley line to this two-story office building in Barrio Logan, just south of Petco Park. This fixer-upper may not look like much today, but by the fall, it will look like this and serve up to 350 students from grades K through 12.
I never thought I'd be here in 12th grade, you know.
Fabian San Elias is a 17-year-old senior who once considered dropping out of school because his family lost their home during the housing crisis. He credits his teachers at Monarch for encouraging him to go to college.
From the smallest thing to the biggest thing, you know, letters of recommendation, anything, you know, they're really there to help.
Monarch has been helping San Diego's homeless children since 1988, and it's the only school of its kind in the nation. The school's principal, Joel Garcia, says the new campus is about leveling the playing field with modern classrooms and equipment.
What our school does is provide this warm, safe, nurturing place, smaller class sizes for our students so that they get maybe that additional support that they need in order to be academically successful in school.
The transformation will cost about $14 million, and the school is scheduled to open in September. Julie Dillion is a board member and chair of the school's capital campaign.
We have a $5 million donor that we are working with. Not prepared to announce yet, but we're getting close. So we hope that very shortly we will be able to announce that the capital campaign is totally funded.
And of course, coming up in a few minutes, part 2 of our series on homeless school kids and the district staff dedicated to serving them. The debate over a plan to reform pensions for San Diego city workers heads to court next week. Joanne is talking with an outspoken supporter of the ballot measure at the Evening Edition Roundtable.
An initiative that would dramatically change pensions for city employees was dealt a heavy blow earlier this week. A state regulatory agency ruled the city of San Diego committed an unfair labor practice when it helped craft the Comprehensive Pension Reform Initiative. Now, a judge will decide whether that initiative even makes it onto the ballot in June. Joining me is Councilmember Carl DeMaio. He led the campaign to gather a record number of signatures to put pension reform on the ballot. Thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me.
So the state board, the Public Employment Relations Board, said the city failed to negotiate with unions. You went right to the voter. You want to go right to the voter. Don't they have a point that, in fact, that's what you did? You didn't negotiate first?
Well, it's not a city initiative. I think I read their complaint. It was jaw-dropping how factually inaccurate the complaint was. It looked like it was written by the city's local labor unions here for government employees. The facts are that this was a citizens' initiative. We had to collect over 145,000 signatures. San Diegans who are watching this program saw during the summer endless lines of people at the store signing the ballot measure, town halls, forums, people going door to door. So it's really offensive that the unions are trying to rewrite history and then advance their claim in a bogus lawsuit with one goal. They want to kick this ballot measure off the ballot, and they don't want to have people even vote on it. And I think that it'll be tossed out in court.
But this board that wrote this report and sort of laid out the facts, now this is a quasi-judicial board. It's a state board.
Agency.
I do want to read from their decision
Sure.
as well, the facts that you say are at dispute. One of the things that this report says is the mayor announced he will place, now this comes from Mayor Jerry Sanders' fact sheet, announced he will place an initiative on the ballot that would eliminate defined benefit pensions for new hires. Also goes on to say that in January in 2011, Mayor Sanders stated during his official State of the City address that Councilmember Kevin Faulkner, the city attorney, and I will soon bring to voters an initiative to enact a 401-style plan. How is this a citizens' initiative? Clearly, the mayor, we know, the people at home know the mayor, and you took the lead on this.
Right. First of all, the Public Employees Relation Board, that's what the agency is. Listen to it. Public Employees Relations Board.
And they're there to uphold the laws, though. Labor relations law. There are laws.
But they see things from a certain perspective, and that is, from the government union. So first thing is consider who's trying to make this complaint. Just because they're making a complaint doesn't make it valid.
They didn't make the complaint. The city's unions made the complaint to them, and they said, yes, we think you have a case.
And so what they said is, what we're going to do is we're going to take this complaint and we're going to file a lawsuit on your behalf. So they're making a complaint in front of a judge.
But didn't this really happen? Didn't Mayor Jerry Sanders really say this? Didn't he really do this?
Didn't he really
help to raise $89,000 for this initiative?
Let me make sure people understand the process. This state union board is filing a lawsuit, and a judge gets to decide. Not the state union board, not the local unions, a judge does. And the judge has to look at the California Constitution, which says the citizens hold the power, the people hold the power, and anytime the people want to amend their Constitution or their city charter, they have a right to do so. There's a process. Either the mayor and the council can say, here's a charter amendment, we're going to put it up to a vote. If we went that route, if the mayor and the council decided to put this on the ballot themselves, yes, meet and confer, labor relations would have to be followed. There's a second route that is involving collection of signatures. If you collect signatures using citizens, you do not have to have a meet and confer or labor relations approval process. It goes right to the ballot. Now, to your point about these so-called facts, what they're referencing in their complaint is the wrong ballot measure. The mayor, yes, announced he wanted to do a ballot measure in December and January of 2010, 2011. But that's not the ballot measure that ultimately...
Where'd the $89,000 go? What ballot measure?
The ballot measure,
he held
the ballot measure that they're referencing in that piece, and it's important that you let me finish my answer because I want to make sure the public understands. That ballot measure went by the wayside in favor of the citizens' initiative that a broad coalition worked on. You have stories on KPBS that show how the mayor set aside his ballot measure and a coalition ballot measure came out that the mayor and I both supported as private individuals. Second of all, yes, many of us raised money for this ballot measure. Many of us donated money. What the unions are trying to suggest is that the mayor and the city council are not allowed to endorse initiatives or candidates. I'm sorry, but the courts have been very clear that everyone has a right to support, endorse as a private individual. What you cannot do is use official resources to advance a ballot measure. In no way, shape, or form can the unions claim or support a contention that the mayor, myself, or anyone else in city government used official resources to advance a ballot measure. All of it had to be done through private campaigns, private efforts, private citizens.
I can keep reading from this complaint, but I mean, it would take an awfully long time. But basically, it lists, paragraph after paragraph, examples of how the mayor was not operating as a private citizen. So you're saying the mayor was a private citizen when he helped to lead this initiative?
When you have a ballot measure, the city is prohibited under state law. The mayor would go to jail if he used city resources to advance a private ballot measure. And
not
so
about using city resources, but you think that
that's what they're claiming in the complaint.
Well, what they're saying is his role as chief negotiator, as a strong mayor, he violated a labor law by bringing forth an initiative without consulting with the unions, without agreeing to say, hey, maybe we can compromise and meet with the unions.
The
unions asked to meet.
In a union lawsuit, you can claim whatever you want to claim. A judge gets to decide, and that judge has to be governed by existing case law, which is established time and time again, that elected officials do not surrender their rights as private citizens to sign ballot measures, to endorse ballot measures as private actors. You just can't do it using government resources. And finally, the judge has to follow our state constitution. At the end of the day, I get it. The government unions don't like pension reform. They don't want you to vote on pension reform. They know that if you have a chance to vote on pension reform, they lose. Their gravy train is shut off. So this is a very desperate lawsuit, and that's only what it is. It's a lawsuit. Get lawsuits all the time, but I think a judge will read the Constitution and say citizens have a right, a constitutionally protected right, to collect signatures and place any item they want on the ballot, and they don't need to ask the unions for permission to exercise that right.
We are so out of time, but I got to ask you this last question. If you can answer in 10 seconds, if this does not make it on the ballot, do you think it's going to negatively impact your campaign for mayor?
No, it's going to only redouble the efforts of taxpayers to get reform. They are so offended by this lawsuit, and I think taxpayers are eager to vote on pension reform, and they're going to get that opportunity in June.
Councilmember DeMaio, thank you for being here. And Michael Zucchet, General Manager of the San Diego Municipal Employees Association, will be here later in the show to talk more about this issue.
We'll hear about a handful of teachers and staff at San Diego City Schools helping some of the most vulnerable students, homeless teenagers, without families to support them. This is KPBS Evening Edition.
Tonight on KPBS at 8, almost everyone or everything in San Diego has an interesting story behind it. Join us for a collection of these stories on Ken Kramer's About San Diego. Then at 8:30, what do a baby tiger, a hole-in-the-wall Mexican restaurant, and an opera company have in common? They're all on Crossing South. And at 9, when the body of a young girl is found by the sea alongside of her mixed-race baby, it's up to Inspector George Gently to solve the crime. That's tonight on KPBS.
On Masterpiece Classic.
Is Mr. Bates the one Lady Rosamond told me about? The murderer?
He's been wrongly accused.
My husband's on trial for his life.
What is it?
I warn you, even my patience has its limits.
You don't have to marry him, you know.
I do have to marry him.
Why?
We're talking to the dead.
Is there anyone there?
God knows what we're in for now.
Stop this at once!
Downton Abbey on Masterpiece Classic.
Sunday at 9 on KPBS. KPBS Evening Edition is made possible by Joan and Erwin Jacobs and by
Thanks to heightened awareness and the economic downturn, San Diego Unified has gone from serving 400 homeless students in 2006 to nearly 3,500 today. In the second part of our series on homeless students, KPBS education reporter Kyla Calvert tells us about a handful of district staff dedicated to helping these students graduate.
David Romer is starting this morning huddled up with colleagues in the Office for Children and Youth in Transition at San Diego Unified's administrative complex in University Heights. They're the handful of San Diego Unified staff dedicated to serving the district's almost 3,500 homeless students.
And then we're also working on getting some scholarships in.
They talk about their successes, but also the odds they're up against. Homeless students perform more poorly on standardized tests than their classmates and face lots of other challenges.
The dropout rate, our homeless kids are at 8.3%. We think we're okay with bus passes right now. We gave out pretty much all the blankets and stuff for the winter.
Would I be approved to do glasses again for a student in need?
Yeah, we can do that, yeah.
Each student comes to us with unique needs, and they don't have anybody speaking on their behalf. So I get to be that person, and I enjoy that.
Thanks, Diane.
Once the meeting ends, Romer heads across Balboa Park to San Diego High School to meet with a few of the more than 30 students he provides with one-on-one support.
Sometimes I'm giving out bus passes. This is the beginning of the month, so that's what I'm doing today. But I'll meet with students, check on their attendance. If I see that they're missing some school, I may call them on it. Check on their grades, see if they have any needs for school supplies, because these kids don't have somebody to go to check on, for them. So I'm the one who's going to speak up for them.
Romer and the office's 2 other traveling teachers meet with some of the district's most vulnerable students, teens living on their own and kids in foster care. The traveling teachers are in such high demand that only students who aren't on track to graduate can get their support. The first student Romer meets with today is 17-year-old Daisy Perez. She transferred to San Diego High from Mission Bay High School this year. She's been in a group home downtown for about a year after bouncing between her grandparents' house and the home of an ex-boyfriend. She says getting out of that situation has led to big improvements in her schoolwork.
Well, I attend school now regularly, every day, on time, so that's a big improvement.
Perez was one of San Diego High's Students of the Month last semester. Now she's applying for college scholarships, which is what Romer is focused on helping her with today.
Let's see, there's your user ID.
If I would be on my own, I wouldn't know what to do exactly, so I would struggle in getting everything done on time, so especially with the deadlines and the applications for FAFSA and scholarships. I wouldn't know what to do.
Romer also pulls senior Zachary Hall out of class to work on scholarship applications. Family troubles brought Hall to San Diego in 2009. At first, he hopped between family members' homes. Since moving to the same group home where Perez lives, his academics have stabilized. Last semester, he got straight A's, and he says Romer's encouragement has made a big difference.
Try that.
At the beginning of the year, in my junior year, I wasn't doing too well. I had almost straight F's, which I was not good at all. So now, I'm working really hard and I'm busting my butt to work harder. It kind of helps to have that little bit of moral support to back me up.
Next, Romer heads to Garfield High School across the street. He has an appointment to help 17-year-old Lavelle Johnson transfer to the school's Oracle program, a self-paced one-course-at-a-time school. But Johnson is a no-show.
Oh, Lavelle.
To buy him some time, Romer delivers diapers for Garfield's teen moms and snacks the school's homeless students can pick up when they need them. Just as Romer is losing hope,
Lavelle hasn't shown yet?
Johnson materializes.
Hey, how's it going?
He doesn't have the credits he needs to graduate on time, and he's hoping he can catch up at Oracle.
Looking for a job. I have a baby on the way, trying to provide school, staying out of trouble, growing up quicker than others, and just trying to just make it.
He says part of what motivates him is not wanting to let Romer down.
He's really involved, more than others, more than other adults. You know, they say they're involved, but actually he'll take his time out to actually get to know you, and he's really genuine and cares, you know, and I can tell he does.
After his meeting with Johnson, Romer takes a quick lunch break, then heads to Tucson Academy, the group home downtown where 8 of the students he works with live.
Okay, let's start with this, Shayla. They've got her in pre-calculus too. She's pretty much met her math requirements.
Romer ends the day back at his desk, sifting through the emails he gets back from teachers.
So I had a student a couple weeks ago who was doing poorly in PE. And through those emails, I found out this student wasn't suiting up. So we were able to get him some sweats and some T-shirts so he could participate in PE again.
Whatever new obstacles present themselves today, Romer and his colleagues will start working to remove them tomorrow.
That was KPBS education reporter Kyla Calvert in the final part of her series. Tomorrow, she'll take us to a school in Southeast San Diego, providing stability and academic success to kids in need. We have more on the pension reform debate in the city of San Diego. Joanne is talking with the union leader taking the city to court.
One person's defeat is another's victory. Labor groups representing city workers are one giant step closer to removing the pension reform initiative from the June ballot. Joining me for the other side of the pension reform story is Michael Zucchet, General Manager of the San Diego Municipal Employees Association, the largest union representing city employees. Michael Zucchet, thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Why does your union not want this initiative on the June ballot?
Well, we filed the complaint because the city violated the law in the way they put it on the ballot, would be the short answer to that question. We oppose the initiative on other grounds and find it to be something that's going to be bad for San Diego, both financially and in terms of alleged pension reform. But in terms of this June ballot issue, it goes to the fact that the city screwed up in the way they put it on the ballot, and the rule of law matters, or at least it should matter, and that's what we're seeing with the enforcement agency coming down on it this week.
Now, Carl DeMaio was here earlier in the show, and what he said was the pension reform measure that Mayor Jerry Sanders was promoting in 2010, 2011, sort of the promoting that the actual report refers to, the state board report, is not the same measure that is going to the voters.
Well, that's fascinating. Of all the things that's come out of his mouth, in January of 2011, Mayor Sanders, standing behind a city lectern with a city seal at the State of the City address, announced, quote, "The city attorney and I, Mayor Sanders, are going to put on the ballot an initiative to eliminate pensions, go to 401ks, et cetera, which is what we have today." So if Mr. DeMaio wants to split hairs about the details as to what the final initiative was, that's fine, but to me that's almost an admission that if that's true, that is, if this is the initiative we're here today, that would be a problem with respect to state law, and the record is very clear on that. This is not a citizens' initiative. This was initiated by public officials at the city of San Diego, namely the mayor, and when that happens, you run across state law, which matters.
Now, the initiative did, though, get a record number of signatures. More than 100,000 people in San Diego, voters, signed this. Isn't there something to be said in terms of the people's initiative? The people want this on the ballot.
Absolutely. Voters or people who might sign the petition were told that it would save billions of dollars. If I was told that and I believed it, I'd probably sign it too. That's not true, and that'll be clear when the independent budget analyst of the city of San Diego does her analysis in the next few weeks. We're in an environment where people like Carl DeMaio go around stirring up people about people's anger about pensions in San Diego, giving misinformation. So I think there's a lot of reasons there were a lot of signatures on that ballot. But I would also say there was a lot of signatures on the referendum a couple years ago to make San Diego a strong mayor form of government and to give Mayor Jerry Sanders a lot of power, including the power as the sole chief labor negotiator with the employees. And so when the mayor acts as he has violated the law with respect to the power given to him by the voters. So if the voters are upset about this and there's going to be this backlash that Carl is threatening everybody, they need to look in the mirror as to how they've conducted themselves over the last year, not how the unions have conducted themselves.
Now, I know that the union did reach out to the city and say, look, we want to meet and talk about this whole meet and confer. That's really what this is about. And the city said no. Right now, would you be willing to go to the table with the city and negotiate and bypass the initiative process and say, okay, we will sit down and talk about pension reform?
Of course. We will in the future, and we'd love to on this. This is our specific request. Admit that it's really a city initiative, not a sham citizens initiative. And sit down and talk about it and go through the proper procedure. You know, we've done that for the last several years. It was ironic that the mayor on Monday, when this PERB action was announced, was in Washington, D.C. talking about what? The fact that the city of San Diego has turned itself around. And
at the National Press
Club, exactly. Yeah. Touting all of the agreements that have been made with city employees to save billions of dollars through pay freezes, the elimination of the retiree health benefit as it was, compensation reductions, a new retirement system for new hires. So those are the types of things that we've always been willing to do. Just ask Mayor Jerry Sanders how that's gone. He was in Washington touting it himself. And so to turn then to a political route, as they've done with this ballot initiative, which is sort of the Full Employment Act for people running for mayor, as opposed to an opportunity to actually do some real pension reform, it's something we're going to oppose.
Just quickly before we go, wouldn't they have known this? This sort of decision seems very clear, and they spell out several examples of the mayor and other city officials sort of touting this initiative. Wouldn't they have known this?
They being
the city attorney, the mayor, saying that perhaps they're violating a labor law.
Well, I don't want to be as sanctimonious as sometimes Jan Goldsmith is about what's going to happen in court, but I would say that the record is pretty clear about the conduct here, and the record is pretty clear that when one city official, especially the strong mayor of a city, takes these actions, the whole city is held responsible. We put them on notice beginning in June, more than 8 months ago, with letter after letter making it very clear, and they rejected it. And so that was a gamble, and now we're going to see what happens.
Okay, Michael Zucchet, we'll have to have you back next week after we know more about the decision.
Thanks very much.
A San Diego climate scientist finally gets his day in the sun. The story next in the public square. This is KPBS Evening Edition.
I'm Jeffrey Brown. On the next NewsHour, a newsmaker interview with House Minority Leader Nancy Pelosi. That's Thursday on the PBS NewsHour.
The American people have named PBS the most trusted source of news
and public affairs
for the 8th year
in a row.
Trust.
The American people have spoken.
Thank you.
In his teen years, lots of people were saying they expected Bill Clinton to be president someday.
They hated his guts, and they would go to the end of the earth to destroy him. What a squandering of talent and possibility.
Tonight has made Bill Clinton the comeback kid.
A definitive look at the man and the president. Clinton on American Experience. Monday, February 20th at 9, only on PBS.
Welcome back to the Public Square on KPBS Evening Edition. Tonight, a follow-up about a man who has been working most of his life to solve a monumental problem with simple solutions. Ram Ramanathan is a climate and atmospheric scientist at Scripps Institution of Oceanography. His work in developing simple ways to reduce air pollutants that contribute to climate change is now being promoted by Secretary of State Hillary Clinton. Here's Dr. Ramanathan on our show last month.
How practical and simple are the solutions? Black carbon, about 25% of it comes from emissions from cook stoves in Asia and Africa because they burn biomass to cook and heat. And we have found just by adding a small fan to this cook stove, you can cut down the emission by 75–80%. This is a $10 fan. Likewise, diesel particulate filters, they are there. And the California has cut down its soot emissions by 50%. So we can export our technology to the rest of the world.
Well, if you want to track what we are working on throughout the day here at Evening Edition, you can follow us on Twitter, like us on Facebook, or you can always ask me. Send me an email, jfarian@kpbs.org.
And you can watch and comment on any of the stories you saw tonight on our website, kpbs.org/eveningedition. Thanks so much for joining us. You have a great night.